Okay, see Lindelof videos, function operations, and what we're really talking about today is when we're doing operations with two or more functions, and then we're going to evaluate them at specific numbers. Today's work actually comes from Kuta-Software's Infinite Pre-Calculus section, and I just took about 4 of their questions that look a little bit different, and I thought we'd just work through them. So let's start with the first problem here, which is that they defined f of x is equal to 3x plus 4. They defined g of x is equal to negative x squared minus 4, and they ask us to find f plus g of 8. So it is what it looks like that we're going to add these two functions together. So if we take a second and we add these two functions, we would get, right, we'd get negative 2x squared, that's me using this, right, these plus 3x's, so plus 3x, right, and then we have 4 minus 4, 4 minus 4 is 0, so that gives us this function. That gives us f plus g, right, of, what did we have, of x. But they want of 8, right, they want of 8, so that's going to give us negative 2, this is where our x will go, plus 3, this is where x will go, and they're telling us that they don't want x in there anymore, now they want an 8, so I'm going to drop this 8 into here, and drop it 8 into here. So far, so good, I hope. Remember PEMDAS, so we're going to do our exponent first. So I'm looking at this first. Look at this first. So we have 8 squared is 64. We have 64 here. This negative 2 comes down. 3 times 8 is, sorry, but it's 24. It's 24, right? If we, negative 2 times 64 is negative 128. Plus 24, I believe, gives us negative 108. Yes, it's negative 108. So all I did was follow the directions inside the parentheses, right? I constructed our new function, and then I evaluated it at this number. The next one really bothers me. I know I already have the answer here, and that's fine, but this is what really bothers me about this problem. Not actually this one. So this mark right here is a multiplication sign, but if you saw f and you saw looks like a little tiny 0 of g, that means something different. We're going to talk about that in the next problem, but I do want to forewarn you to be careful that you're looking carefully at what you're being asked to do. So here it is. It says I'm going to multiply these two. So f is 2, you're going to see why I'm doing this in just a second, 3 here, times t cubed, you're going to see in a second, you're like, why is he leaving these blanks here, plus t, right? And we're supposed to multiply these. This is f and this is g, but we want to evaluate this at 0. And the reason I want to show you this is because you're going to see what's about to happen. Forget about, well, we can do this for a second. This would be negative 3, wouldn't it? More importantly, though, this 0 cubed is 0 plus 0 is 0. So given the 0 product property, 0 product property, I don't have to do much more. I know that this is going to end up being 0. So sometimes, so the reason you're like, why is he telling me this? Well, because somebody might have done this instead. They might have done this, t cubed plus t, right? And they might have done binomial expansion here, or in some people call it FOIL, but they might have expanded this. There's no need to expand this because we're going to evaluate this at a specific numeric value, and that value was 0 in this case, all right? I think the next problem is the problem that compares, that gives me pause about using specific notation. So here, again, they're defining two functions for us, that g of n is equal to negative n plus 5, and that f of n is equal to n squared minus 1. But here they give this weird notation, and I'm like, okay, are they telling me to multiply, or are they saying something else? And they are saying something else. So when you see this notation, the way I would always write this is I would have written this as g of f of x, right? And here they're saying x equals 6. So they want f of first, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is evaluate f of this number. So I'm going to find f of, right, because we need f of 6. F of 6. So f of 6 is equal to 6 squared minus 1. So that's 36 minus 1 equals 35, right? Now we can evaluate g of 35, right? Because 35 is f of 6. So g of 35 is the opposite of n plus 5. N is 35. Look, the reason I put it in parentheses all the time is that people get this messed up. So what if this, our value, our f of 6 value had been a negative, then people kind of forget and they'll say, oh, I have a negative. So I'm just kind of trying to keep track of stuff the best that I can. So g of 35 is the same as g of f of 6, and the answer is negative 30. I just want to tell you that these two things are the same. These have the same value, right? Okay, moving on to the next problem. This is another one that we're going to see. And here we have a quotient here. They define the two functions, h of n and g of n, and they're saying to us, make a fraction and put h at the top and g at the bottom. It is that simple. So here's my fraction, and at the top they want negative n cubed minus 2n over, right? They want g at the bottom, negative 2n minus 1, and they want us to evaluate this whole thing at negative 4. So that would look like this. That would give us the opposite of negative 4 cubed minus 2 times negative 4 over negative 2 times negative 4. Being really careful here. Minus 1. I'm not going to make you guys bang this whole thing out with me, but I will tell you that we get 72 at the top and 7 at the bottom. If you expand this out and you get a different answer, please let me know, but I'm sure of my answer. So these are the things that you're going to see, things you're supposed to be able to do. So here, this is us adding. Adding and subtraction are the same thing, right? If this was subtraction, we would just do everything we did here, except we would subtract. Here, remember, this is multiplying. This is to multiply. The next one, by contrast, is f of, right? So when you see this, you see you see g, you see that zero looking thing in there. I'm begging you, just take a second and rewrite that this is g of f of x. It will help so much, because otherwise you might look at this as multiplication. Be careful. The last thing we did was we looked at quotients, and the top was the numerator, the bottom the denominator, so we put h in the numerator, g in the denominator, and then we just evaluate it. It really is that simple. So I hope this was helpful. If you have questions or comments, please let me know. I think I get back to people pretty well. And also, if you haven't already subscribed, would you please do that for me? I appreciate it. See ya.